Dear Diary.
Dear Diary.
Dear Diary, wow, today was a really hard day.
Dear Diary, I find sometimes my life can be hard.
Dear Diary, it will pass and it will be okay.
Dear Diary, I feel like today is going to be...
Shh, the Indigo Diaries. Dear Diary, welcome word to the Indigo Diaries, and welcome to Series 1, World Through Your Eyes, with your host, me, Natasha Hickling. The Indigo Diaries is a podcast that want to learn about ADHD through others' experiences. And I'm so excited because this is probably one of the first Series 1 I've done in 2022. And this is why I started this podcast for this series where people get to create a platform for people to tell and hear their stories so people can relate in some way. So I'm really excited because I've been doing a lot of Series 3 with different guest speakers, but I'm really excited to hear somebody else's story in Series 1 and come back to where it all started for me. So without a doubt, I'm going to introduce our guest, Graham. Hi, Graham.
Hi, Natasha. How are you doing?
Good, thanks. How are you?
I'm good, yeah. Thanks for having me.
Oh, always. So let me tell you a bit about Graham. Graham is a qualified executive coach for individuals and teams. He's worked globally and nationally, and he's passionate in coaching upcoming young talent and fast-tracking them into positions. Graham is absolutely passionate about people, whether that be coaching an up-and-coming leader or coaching a CEO. He shifts his gear with ease. Graham was recently diagnosed at the age of 53 with ADHD combined presentation. The diagnosis has given him clarity and understanding, and everything in his life has come into our focus. The realization of the past has been realized overnight. If anything, all Graham's bio, please look at the description below. So, Graham, kind of tell us, you've just been diagnosed at the age of 53. So kind of tell us, where do you want to start with your story?
Well, I suppose the best place to start is, I don't know whether we should go right back to childhood or the realization since I've got the diagnosis, or how the diagnosis came about. Probably how the diagnosis came about.
Okay, you go there.
Yeah, so let's start there. So a bit of a rambling start, but I guess that's ADHD, isn't it?
It is. It's never a clear start. Never a clear start.
It's never a clear start. So sadly, I was in a position where it was a failed relationship, and my now ex-wife had written some kind of letter highlighting some behaviours that she wasn't particularly happy with. And I had a lot of time on my own. It's been probably the loneliest period of my life, going through a divorce. And it's been quite a messy one because we had a business together as well. So it's been a difficult one to get through. So I've had a lot of time on my own to think and contemplate. And I watched, a YouTube video came up on my feed, and as all the ADHDers, we love YouTube, we love TikTok.
We do.
So this video came up on my feed, and it was Jessica McCabe, and I guess Jessica McCabe is obviously known to your audience, Natasha.
Yeah, and that's How to ADHD. If you don't know who Jessica McCabe is, go on to YouTube.
Yeah, she's fantastic. She's really, really good. So I watched her TED Talks video, and it was basically, she was telling the world about her condition and how she'd struggled with it. I don't know, she must have been about 20s. She's quite a young lady anyway. Yeah. She's much younger than me, but she's obviously struggled with failed relationships herself. So I thought I need to contact my doctor. So I had a telephone consultation with my doctor. My doctor basically said, "Yeah, I think you've got a good case to maybe get a diagnosis." She sent me through to the NHS. I don't know what department it is, psychotherapy or whatever. I don't know what the term is, but that's irrelevant. And I quickly learned that the time for the diagnosis was up to 7 years, between 2 and 7 years, which is thought, how can I put my life on hold for so long?
Yeah, that's just, it's a hard 7 years. I think that's the most I've ever heard. I've had 4.
I don't know, some of your listeners might have had other experiences, but that's the noises that I was hearing because I've done a few follow-up calls. So this was in September last year when I got the referral. So I'd sort of chased it one thing or another, then I started realising the time frame to get a diagnosis, and I thought, I cannot put my life on hold.
Yeah.
At 53 years old, I cannot put my life on hold anymore, wondering what's going on.
Yeah.
So I found a lady called Sushi Dobinson. She's based in Hull. She actually works for the NHS, funnily enough, but she works privately as well. And she carried out this diagnosis, and she was very affordable. So anybody who was out there, I suppose we could put a link on this.
Yeah, could do. Yeah.
To Sushi, because she's very affordable, and I know a lot of people don't have that luxury to be able to pay for diagnosis, even if it's for your children or for a teenager or an adult or whatever. They don't have that resource to be able to throw money at diagnosis, but she can do the diagnosis. She doesn't do the medication part, but she can signpost you on.
Yeah.
And once I'd got my diagnosis, jumping a little bit ahead here, once I got my diagnosis, she encouraged me to take up coaching rather than medication.
Yeah.
And it's a personal decision. Is obviously coaching and medication. Personally, I've never been a big fan of taking drugs.
Yeah, fair enough.
Whether that's for pleasure or for I've never been a fan of that. That's not my style. So I thought the best way for me to manage my newly realised condition was to have coaching. So that's so my journey then took me to ADHD Foundation, ADHD UK Foundation, and I did an online, one of these tempter things. I don't know what to call it. What do I call it, Natasha?
What, do you mean like a diagnostic kind of, like a test? Yeah.
So, well, no, it was sort of like meet the coach, if you like.
You mean like so ADHD UK does is a shout out to ADHD UK, but they do these meet the coach sessions once a week, where it's like an online with a ADHD life coach. You can go and ask questions. It's really cool. Yeah.
So that's where I met you, Natasha. So Natasha now is my coach, and we've worked together now for a couple of months, and I'm finding it highly beneficial. And we're continuing to work together to manage my condition. But since the diagnosis, the realization of things that's happened in the past has been huge. I now realize that. I mean, obviously, I'm not a psychotherapist, but I now realize that my mother had it.
Okay.
And I have got a strong feeling that my son may have it as well. But he's now 20, and we've probably got to have conversations of whether he wants to go down that avenue of understanding whether he has got a diagnosis or not. But some of his behaviours are very likened to mine. So this is another part of my journey, is obviously supporting my son as well. And I'm so keen now, I suppose. I think you said when I published my diagnosis to the world, you're the fastest person. I'm the fastest person you've realised that's ever sort of put it out there. But I don't feel I've got time to mess around, because I'm at the wrong side of 50, from a life point of view. And if I can share my experiences and help somebody else, it's a win-win, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because as in your introduction, I love helping people, and if I can help somebody else through my difficulties, through my life, happy days.
I think it's really amazing that like I've said this to you before, but I think it's really amazing how you know, it was like, I'm not going to wait 2 to 7 years. I don't have the time. So you went and found a way that was affordable for you. You found a great resource, which is amazing. And we'll put that below. And then you went straight into, I'm going to go and get coaching. I haven't got time to mess around. I'm going to make the most of this diagnosis, learn the most, do the most, and try and really learn to live with this. And then you've even gone the next step and seen it with your family and all that sort of stuff, and then wanting to help them. And I think it's really, I've said this to you before, but I think this is really amazing that you've already gone on such a journey with Intimate, because it's that thing of, I can't wait, because you were diagnosed obviously a lot later. It's that thing, I've got to take this now.
Yeah, and you know, I've reflected back over this last couple of years and what's happened in my life, and some of the change that has happened in my life, I've really struggled with, and I've struggled to get to an acceptance stage of where I can move on. And in what I do in coaching, part of my coaching is to help people manage change, but it's difficult to manage it yourself.
Yeah.
But the one thing that I've absolutely 110% embraced is my ADHD condition.
Yeah, I agree.
I've completely embraced it, and I've completely accepted it for what it is. And, you know, to all your listeners out there, it certainly shouldn't hold you back, and don't let it hold you back. You've got to move forward, whatever is the issue that you're facing, and people make decisions in their own timeframes and for their own reasons. But ultimately, you know, my message out to anybody who's listening is just, you know, there's a way forward. You don't have to be held back. You don't have to be held back, because I can see where it can be tough, and some people with this condition suffer more than most, and they've got other conditions that's bolted onto the back of it, as in autism and, you know, dyslexia, dyspraxia, all those things in a combined. So that must be a really tough gig for you guys out there. I only know that I've got ADHD. I might have a touch of dyslexia, but I do spot my partner in crime spelling mistakes. Matt, sorry if you're listening. I spot his spelling mistakes because he's dyslexic. Yeah, don't let this condition hold you back. There is a way forward. There's support out there. There's help out there. I'm learning at such a fast pace about my condition. Recently now, I've realised that I can get access to work because it's under the Equality Act 2010. There's support out there in many different guises, and the online community is huge. It's absolutely huge. There's loads of people out there. It's amazing how many new connections. With been in business myself and an exec coach. I use the LinkedIn platform as you do, Natasha. It's amazing how many groups are out there. Yeah, neurodiversity groups, not just for ADHD, but for other neurodiverse conditions. There's lots of people out there that are shouting about it and willing to help. So again, you know, don't feel like you're alone, because you're not. And the thing is, this condition is so underdiagnosed. But yeah, the stats are 3 in 10 people have got it. That's a lot of people.
There's a lot of people. I always say that, like, when I do a training or something of 10 people, I go, right, it's probably one person that's got it, and everyone goes, what, you know, and everyone, it's like, look around, because it is so frequent. But what I really like what you've done again is you've took your diagnosis and then trying to help other people, which shows a lot about who you are. Like, it's like, I've got this diagnosis, you're not alone, blah, blah, blah. And you're recognizing all the amazing things that have almost come from your diagnosis. You know, you saying it, you know, helping other people on LinkedIn, you're looking, you're finding all these things. And I really do think that it's hard, because everybody obviously after a diagnosis goes through their own process, whether that's, you know, anger, stuff, but yours is just very much, you've accepted this as a part of who you are, and then you just embracing that and trying to, you know, learn to live with it. Yeah,
because, you know, it's not all bad, is it? We have got some absolutely super skills. I was only yesterday coaching a guy, and he spotted straight away that he says your empathy and understanding of a situation from an emotional standpoint is absolutely huge. I've never spoke to anybody like that before that can just tune in and pick up what I'm feeling. And that's an ADHD quality, and it's a great quality. You can actually tap into somebody. I'm not saying that everybody should become a coach, because that'd swap the market and we'd be out of business, Natasha.
We'd be out of the business, don't we? So you said that the empathy key, not everybody becomes a coach. Everybody uses their empathy for different ways. What other qualities do you think that since your diagnosis that you've realized that you can tap into?
I can certainly think outside the box massively, and be very creative in my ideas. I've realised that I'm an absolute workaholic, but that's got to be managed. The energy is just absolutely phenomenal, and I can keep going all day, and then just crash. Then just crash. So, one thing, I know your question's about positives, but you have got to manage yourself as well. It has got to be managed. It can't just take a hold of you, So even though you're highly enthusiastic about things, that can wane quite quickly as an ADHD condition. But we've got to harness that and sort of bottle it to an extent and use it when it's needed the most.
Yeah, it's like a double-edged sword. Empathy and passion can come out great, but then they can also be to the extreme where you put so much into one area of your life. I know that 100% from my path. Or it can be like creativity, then you're kind of thinking all the ideas and then not getting into action. So there's kind of that, you've got to harness it, but then find that balance, which I know about me, but people with ADHD are not the best at. We're either up or down, up or down, up or down. This balance is quite difficult. How would you say you're kind of finding kind of your balance with harnessing those things, but also managing yourself?
I think since we've been working together, understanding that I've got to really just stop and think about things, making decisions. And this was highlighted yesterday. I had a meeting with my accountant. We have a yearly meeting, and she brought up so many things that I discussed with her in terms of finance. So I was talking about buying an electric car, and I'd spoken to her ages about it. I've not bought the electric car yet. So I were exploring how I could buy an electric car within the business because it's more tax efficient. Then I was talking about pension contributions. So she brought that up as well. That was another conversation that we'd had. Then she was talking about, cash flow and things like that, and what do you need to do, and there were just so many situations or conversations that we'd had over this past 12 months that she'd just brought to light in this hour conversation that I'd had with her. So these are these ideas that I've come up with and not necessarily executed them. But what I have become more aware of now is the financial consequence. Yeah. Because that is a big trait of ADHD, is that we can be so impulsive and think that that's a great idea, I'll spend that. So for example, I'm an absolute massive keen golfer. I love my golf, and I've been wanting a new bat, club, and rather than and I've been sort of doing my research and looking at what's what, and although I was in a golf shop the other day, I was so tempted to buy a brand new club, so tempted, at nearly 200 quid. But I thought, do you know what, Graham? Manage yourself. Just manage yourself. You don't need to buy that club. You can play your next round of golf without that club. You've played without that club for 12 months. Why do you need it? Tomorrow, it's not going to make any difference tomorrow. And that's what I was saying to myself. So I did some more research and bought a second-hand one instead, which was half the price.
Absolutely brilliant, because that you know, like you said, that impulsivity, it has the effects, but also being with all the ideas is great. But then if you don't harness that, and like, that's a great idea, but then you bought a second-hand one because it's financially better, you know, and all these things, but you put the brakes on in the moment, which is incredible, because that's such, you know, like Ned Hallowell says, we've got to fry our brain with bicycle brakes, because it's that stopping in that moment to rather than let the impulsivity take over us, you know, we got to take that control of it. So wow, that's really cool.
So yeah, a massive win, and you know, I've saved myself 100 odd quid, and that could be spent on something else like electricity and fuel bills.
Do you think, like, in that moment, like if you'd not been diagnosed, right, and got all that stuff about ADHD and all the knowledge you had now, what do you think would have happened?
I'd be finding, and I'll rewind back to when I was with my wife, because I could remember having conversations, and I'd be trying to influence her and find every reason why I should be buying that new club. Yeah. And this is the difference. This is the whole difference now, because that puts pressure on relationships. You know, if you think about that, well, yeah, money is tight for everybody at the moment, especially with the cost of living going the way it's going, and you know, financial pressure can be huge in a household, and deciding what to spend your money on. And you know, the fact that I liked golf and finding every reason possible that I should have that club doesn't necessarily tick the box, does it? When I can tick the box with a second-hand one that'll work just as good.
Yeah, and
especially for a golfer of my caliber.
I love that. Such honesty.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Well, Graham, it's just such a pleasure, and we'll be back after the break. We're going to take a quick break, and we'll come back and we'll carry on talking to Graham and kind of talk about, kind of go back a little bit and see kind of where the ADHD may have come up in his life. Yeah. So we'll be back in a minute, and we're out. If you would like any more information on Indigo Hub or our Indigo support group, then please check out our website below, or our link to our social media platforms, or email at indigohub.adhd@gmail.com. If you would like to offer any comments, feedback, get support, or if you're interested in the world hearing your story, then please reach out through any of our avenues. As said before, have a positive week. Check in again later. And we're out. Shh, the Indigo Diaries. And we're back. And as always, we end up talking and going down a rabbit hole. Oh no, we're not recording. So we're back on. It happens every single time. And I always say it happens every single time because I just think it's brilliant. It's just such ADHD nature to start going down a rabbit hole in the break.
Yeah, but it is good though. It is good.
It is good.
It's a meaningful conversation.
I just wish you'd press record. We should do like outtakes of what happens on the breaks. I should do an episode with all the outtakes.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
So, Graham, if anyone had not heard the first half, then rewind, because Graham was telling us about his story and when he was diagnosed and kind of what he's been thinking since. So kind of, you said that you kind of, before we kind of go into how you're managing it and kind of other ways that are really helping with your ADHD now, kind of, you said at the start, you know, whether to go back to the past.
Yeah. So as a boy, there's been sort of certain realizations. So I was never a great sleeper, even as a child, never a great sleeper. And I can remember in the 6 weeks holidays, I'd like be up at 5 o'clock, sun would be out, and I'd be riding my bike, through all the streets, and then I'd be driving, riding around to my friends' houses, and I'd be looking up thinking, why aren't they up and I am? They're knocking on. Week holidays. Let's go play. Let's go play. So yeah, that that was the case in 6 weeks holidays, and then I can remember a time that this was a really naughty thing at the time, and I can remember my dad going absolutely ballistic. I was obviously bored and I needed something to grab my attention. And we had this felt back carpet in my bedroom. And there was this sort of little thread that was just sort of looking at me, and I'm thinking, I need to pull that. So I kept on pulling it, and I kept on pulling it, and I kept on pulling it. And my bedroom, I had half a carpet left in my bedroom.
Oh, no.
But that was the attention deficit, you know.
Yeah.
And, you know, I was bored. I can tell. I was bored. I was awkward. I must have been hard work for my dad. Bless him, he's passed now, but I must have been really hard work for him. So that was the case, and I can remember my parents struggling to deal with me. But you know, we're talking. I was born in '68, so we're talking the '70s. So things like ADHD have never been heard of.
No.
And you know, you were just classed as a naughty boy.
Yeah.
Or a naughty girl, and it's great now that you know things have moved on so much that we can recognise that there's differences in people, but we're all in the mix, and I don't see myself as any better or any worse than anybody else. Whereas parents might look at their kids and say, "Well, how are they going to survive? How are they going to move forward?" It's a good time to get diagnosed, as you know, upsetting as that might be for a lot of families out there. Yeah. It's a good time to get diagnosed because things are moving forward and there's provisions getting put in place. And you think about how diverse we are becoming as a society. You know, they're not just locally, but nationally, but globally. You know, we're becoming more diverse and accepting differences in people, whether that's sexuality, gender, race, neurodiverse conditions. We're so much more accepting. So don't be frightened of getting that diagnosis and embracing that, because you know, I've lived through my challenges, and now I know, and this is why it's so liberating for me to have my diagnosis and know and understand what's gone on in the past, right back to my childhood. So, you know, there is a better future ahead, and that future is a lot better than what I had going back to when I was a child and when I didn't even know I had it. But I can remember. I keep on getting a couple of phone calls in, Natasha. I can remember my mum and dad taking me to Leeds General Infirmary. It obviously must have been a consultation through, you know, that was referred through my doctor. And I had electrodes on my head.
Okay.
So God knows what they were testing me for, but I can vividly remember that. I must have been about 7 or 8. That was quite scary. I can remember at the time it was quite scary. And there was no diagnosis. They said, "Oh, there's nothing wrong with him." Yeah. There's nothing wrong with him. But you don't put electrodes on somebody's head now and check them out for ADHD.
No, it's very, very different. But like you said, like there's nothing wrong with you. And like you said, you look back now and it's that you were different. It's nothing worse, nothing better than you were. It's just different. And like you said, like that, you know, that carpet, I can imagine that you know, you were bored. So it gives you an explanation for what happened in the past. And it helps you to kind of understand what you went through, which must have been really difficult, but it gives you an explanation of what and why things happened.
Yeah. I mean, you know, going back to school, I felt different. I just felt on the outside, if you know what I mean. I don't know if I'm getting my message across clearly, but I just felt just different from everybody else, and I'd feel quite lonely.
Yeah,
quite a lonely feeling. I had friends. It's not that I didn't have friends, but kids can be cruel, can't they? Because of, they're learning about their world and where they fit in there and who they are. And if the education's not there in being kind, it's difficult, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
I suffered a bit of bullying as a child, if I'm honest. And I don't know whether that was part of my behaviours and I can remember having lots of emotional outbursts. That emotional button would just pressed all the time. And that was like food to some kids in my forms. It was fuel for them to pour on my fire and poke, because bullying was it wasn't taken as seriously as what it is now.
Yeah.
And this is why today is a much better day to become diagnosed with ADHD. This time it's much better. It's more embraced. It's more understood. It's more accepted, and people can just live normal lives. And it's getting there. It's getting there even more, and it'll progress even further, and it'll get better. And the great work that you do, and doing things like podcasts and talking about it and sharing experiences, it all helps. It just all helps. And if anybody can get any benefit from listening to things like this, it's win-win. We've helped somebody else, and that's a big tick in my box.
I know it is, yeah, and it's a big tick in my box. It's like the butterfly effect. You put it out there, it helps one person, then they help another person, they help, and then it just all spins out. And we've still got a long way to go. But what I really like is what you said, back then it was very different. There was not that awareness of it. There wasn't that acceptance of it. Your parents took you, and when had those things on your head, like that wouldn't happen now, would it? It's an interview. It's such a different time. So is there any, would you say, for you, there's any kind of because I know some people, after they get diagnosed a lot later, it's kind of that resentment for the past or anything like that. Do you have anything about like that, or no?
Not one bit, because how can I be resentful? How can I'm not going to apologise for my condition because I didn't know I had it.
Yeah. I'm
not going to apologise for my behaviours because I didn't know I had it and I couldn't manage it.
Yeah.
Now I can apologise for my behaviours.
Because you know.
Because I know, but I couldn't in the past.
Yeah.
So, getting an ADHD diagnosis and then generating some knowledge about it, getting some understanding about it, getting some understanding about who you are, and generating coping mechanisms. That's moving forward. That's the real benefit of where I am today, and this has happened so quickly because my diagnosis were only in January.
I know.
And we're only at the end of April, and I've learned so much in that short space of time. Because I've obviously been hyper-focusing.
Yeah, that's the positive ADHD thing there, kicking in. We're hyper-focused on ourselves. ADHD.
Definitely, but I feel as though I need to do that, and it's great to feel. I've never felt happier in this last 2 years than what I have done today, with what's gone on, because I can see doors opening. I can see things changing for me on a personal perspective.
Nice.
And to all, I've said this before, but to all your listeners out there, there's hope in what you might feel is a really, really dark situation for yourselves. There's definitely hope out there, and if you want to go and change your life, the support out there to help you do that.
Yeah, I agree. So what, like, I really like that. And I've always said that, like, you know, like we said in the first half, like, you very much, you know, you embraced it. There's no time, I need to do it now. And like you said, in short time, you've come really far. What would you say, like, now, like, some of the kind of strategies or some of the kind of things that you do now to help yourself with the ADHD?
Well, setting alarms, timers. If I do decide to say like, I mean, I can. We spoke about this in our coaching, and where I've decided to start cleaning the apartment, and I'll start in the bedroom, pick something up, move it into the living room, then spot something in the living room, then start cleaning the living room, and then I'll move it into the kitchen, and then I start cleaning the kitchen, and it's like I hadn't even finished cleaning the bedroom. So now I'm a little bit kinder to myself, and I'm not saying that I'm absolutely dead perfect on that, and I'll just stick in one room. So I'm kind of to myself and I might just laugh at myself about that, because it doesn't really matter, does it?
No.
It's not hurting anybody. It's not a world game changer. It's not going to impact on the future of oil prices or anything like that. So I'll just laugh at myself to an extent, but I will use that as a conscious effort to think, right, no, I'm going to stay in this room and clean this room. And I use that to exercise and train myself to get better.
Yeah.
Because that'll help in other disciplines that's more meaningful. You know, I've just rebranded my business, which is All About Change. Plug there, allaboutchange.co.uk.
And it'll be in the details below.
Yeah, check me out. And I've just rebranded it, and I've got lots of paper. I'm just starting to do a redundancy job. I help people sometimes with restructures, organisations with restructures,
Nice.
making people redundant, which it sounds a really, really awful thing to do. And yeah, it is to an extent, but the empathy helps with that kind of job from ADHD perspective. But I had to rebrand a lot of flyers and leaflets that I hand out that I have. And that, to me, is just like the most tedious, awful, terrible job that I could do. And I've got them listed basically A to J, all these flyers. That's how many flyers there are. I did them all in one go. I hyper-focused and did them all in one go.
Yeah.
And I'd give myself a massive pat on the back for that.
That's huge.
And any ADHDers out there that's listening to this, that will resonate. That will just, they'll think, yeah, that kind of thing is a challenge, whatever you find challenging, to stick to do. So I am starting to realise how I need to manage myself better, and making sure that I'm doing the important things, and also being, quite relaxed with myself in terms of, if I don't do the cleaning in the bedroom all in one go, it's no big drama. Although I do use that as an exercise to try and get myself over the line. And timers, things like that. I've now got a new lady in my life, which is another great positive. And she's joined me on coaching sessions with yourself, Natasha, as you know, and she's embraced this. And there's things that we're working on together to make sure that I don't end up in the same situation that I did before in another failed relationship. So, she's educating herself so that anybody who's in a relationship out there, who's one of your listeners, that is dealing with somebody with ADHD, it's about trying to understand. Yeah. It's really about trying to understand and going on that journey together. And if you can go on that journey together, you stand a greater success of fulfilling a great relationship together and helping each other with that diagnosis, because it's not them that has to change to an extent, because they're neurotypical. They've just got to accept that you are different. but ultimately it's your challenge as the sufferer with ADHD to overcome that and manage that through coping mechanisms on whatever you're struggling with within that ADHD diagnosis. So yeah, that's how it's sort of, that's the sort of things that I've been doing to manage them. That's just one or two things. I mean, it's quite early and we've still got a lot of work to do, through my coaching. So, and it's still quite early in terms of my knowledge and understanding of ADHD. But I have learned a lot, and I'm reading books all the time. There's some great books out there, Fast Minds, ADHD A to Z. There's some great books out there that you can use, but it's only bite-sized chunks at a time because it's quite overwhelming as reading for me.
Yeah. But like, I really like that. Like, I've come this far, but then I've still got a long way to go. And it's that thing, if you're acknowledging who you are, where you've been since your diagnosis, but still that you've got a long way to go, but in a good way. Like, I've embraced a lot, I've done this, I've done that, and that's acknowledging. And because you have the awareness now of what you need to do, when you went into your bedroom, your kitchen here, before you would just do it and then it'd be like, oh, why am I doing it? Now it's, that's just the way I am, okay, maybe I'll go in here. Like when you bought your club, no, I'm not going to buy that. I'm going to go here, because you're making those conscious choices because you're aware of it. And I think that is really big, and that shows in a lot of the things that you're doing, like with your partner and things. It's that awareness, understanding yourself, embracing that, and then making the change, which because you're a coach, is a long process, right? We wish it was overnight.
And it's hard, isn't it? It's hard. It's never easy for the coachee. No. It's a tough gig. Coaching's not easy. No. But it helps massively. It really does help massively. Yeah. It's like another friend to just lean on and just bounce ideas past and be challenged and generate more self-awareness. Self-awareness is huge. If you have not got any self-awareness, coaching's where it's at for sure. Yeah.
So I'm just going to keep saying it, but it's just so inspiring to see how far you've come and where you are right now. So I know this is quite a loaded question. I always ask this at the end, near towards the end. What's next for you, Graham?
What's next for me? Well, I'm going to, with what's happened over the last 18 months, 2 years with my divorce, with a business split, one thing or another, and obviously with COVID and whatnot, I'm going to take an holiday, that is for sure. So we have got a holiday booked, so I'm going to have a week sat on my backside doing nothing, getting some raise. So that is a definite.
Brilliant.
And I'm looking to share knowledge on ADHD. I have got on LinkedIn, if anybody's on LinkedIn out there, I have got a neurodiversity business network group. It's called the Neurodiverse Business Network Group. The
link's below.
Right, okay. It's welcome to everybody's welcome. You don't have to be neurodiverse and neurodivergent to be accepted into the group. You can be neurotypical, but just have an acceptance for people with neurodivergent conditions, and embrace those differences. It's a group that I've generated. I don't know where it's going to go. It's quite in its early stages, but it's about sharing contacts, sharing help, hopefully helping people with neurodiverse conditions to be able to work. So sharing contacts, sharing leads, sharing ideas, contributing to those business groups. There's some great members already. There's some content in there already. I'm looking for people to add to that content. It's a free and open group. So that's one thing I'm doing from the neurodiverse standpoint. I'm growing my business. We're getting back to where to where I was before when I was with my wife. So I've taken an associate on board who looks after the HR side of things. So that's starting to build and gain momentum. But if anybody's out there who's looking for exec coaching, training, psychometrics, we do HR projects, all that kind of thing, whether that's recruitment, redundancy, day-to-day HR, we do all that. Please give us a call, give us a ring, give us a message.
So my last question, Graham, is where can they find you?
Where can they find me? Well, they can find me on LinkedIn. You can drop me an email at graham@all-about-change.co.uk. My website is www.all-about-change.co.uk. You can find out on there what kind of services that we offer, and you can have a free consultation with us, 60-minute consultation, see whether it's right for you. Whether that's coaching, training, etc., whatever your people issue is, we can sort that out. So we can have that conversation. It's free of charge. There's no charge for that whatsoever. And I'm just going to enjoy being myself.
Yeah.
Going forward, ultimately, I'm going to enjoy being myself, and I'd encourage everybody else to enjoy being themselves as well.
I was just about to say, is there anything you want to leave our listeners with? But I think that's a nice way to leave it. Enjoy being yourself.
Yeah, enjoy being yourself, because everybody else is taken.
Yeah.
So don't be afraid of being yourself, because everybody else is taken.
Yeah. And that's a great way. Enjoy being yourself. ADHD diagnosis, pre-diagnosis, pro-diagnosis. Enjoy being safe, embrace who you are, and just move forward.
Yeah, definitely. It should not be a negative thing.
Good.
There's a way forward.
Well, thank you so much, Graham. It was an absolute honor to have you here. And I really honestly believe that so many people will resonate with this. And if you want to reach out to Graham, then all the links that we've got a lot of links that I've got to go and find now. We've got a lot of links.
I'll send them to you.
You're good, thanks. We've got all these links, and they're all below. So please reach out, because, even if it's just to speak to Graham about his experience, because he is definitely a great resource that I know I've learned from, and I know that many others will resonate and learn from too. So thank you so much, Graham, for sharing your story.
Thanks for letting me come along. I've really thoroughly enjoyed it myself. It's been fun.
Fun. And I just wanted to mention that it took us 3 times to do this. This is the third time.
Take 3.
The first time Zoom wouldn't work. The second time we did it on WhatsApp, but then we recorded the first 15 minutes, it didn't record. Then we figured out how to do it on Zoom on the phone, but then it was too late. So here we are again. So I'm finally glad to have got this recorded and ready to show the world. It was so good to see you. So today we leave with another amazing story, and it's really been a great honor and to have you share your story on this platform. And I hope that people can relate in so many different ways. And I just want to say, as we finish today's episode, that please reach out if you want to share your story with others, because it can make a huge difference, not only in your life, but also others. Look out for next week or in 2 weeks as we launch another episode of either series 1 or 3. Who knows? Because, it can happen. So we're signing out. And remember, just as Graham says, be yourself. And we're out.
Dear diary.
Dear diary.
Dear diary.
Today is ending. I'll check in again tomorrow.
Tomorrow is a brand new beginning.
Good night, sweet dreams.
I think tomorrow will be